Welcome to Funnel Reboot, the podcast that shares ideas on how to upgrade your lead generation. Here is your host, Glenn Schmeltzley.
Hey, Glenn here. Welcome to the show that helps you upgrade your lead generation. The new book we're talking about in our series helps you take sales and marketing beyond the printed or spoken word. But before we get into that, there are so many good marketing books out there. And if you like a certain author, I'd love for you to just mention them on social media. You can use the hashtag Summer Marketing Books. I'll try to get them on the show so we can all hear what they have to say. Alternatively, you can use funnelreboot.com site's feedback form, or you can even leave me listener feedback at 613-703-7073. So on to what we're going to talk about today. Our guest has worked at high-flying tech companies like BlackBerry. He lives in the Waterloo, Ontario high-tech hub with his wife and 4 kids. And whenever he speaks on stage or as a guest on a show, he talks about how to modernize the way sales and marketing people communicate. I consider him to be a marketer's marketer. And what I mean by that is he's dialed into marketing tech. So seeing him come out with a book in 2020 called The Visual Sale, I knew I needed to pay more attention to video. Listen in the show for reasons why he thinks today's buyers expect us to show up visually, not just in text that they read or orally over the phone. Listen to him walk through how to make videos seen by prospects in the researching of a purchase phase, when they are ready to decide, and even after the sale. Most importantly, take it from this guy who describes himself as a hacky video creator, how little you need to get started shooting video. Let's go listen to our guest, Tyler Lessard. Today, I'm very pleased to bring on to the podcast, Tyler Lessard. Good to see you, Tyler.
Glenn, it is great to be here. I am excited to dive into this topic here today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, it is a topic that is near and dear to your heart, right? The name of the book is The Visual Sale, How to Use Video to Explode Sales, Drive Marketing, and Grow Your Business in a Virtual World. I'm going to start by saying, I know you're really into video. I have a confession to make. I haven't always been into video. And it's kind of interesting. It turned me around. I can remember the moment, up until then, the inner critic, would come out and say, why don't we just write something? And, even at the first couple of pages of the book, I'm reading where you say, our marketing strategies must include video. And, a little bit of an eye roll from me. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Real marketing communication is a white paper. It's a blog. It's, something. It's not a video. And then I thought for a second about when I research things I want to buy from a vendor. And when I have the choice of reading a post or watching a video of somebody talking, I always pick the person who's talking on the video. And that changed my whole attitude, right? That was proof right there, because it is writing. They're just saying it. Yeah. And, so now, I think you brought me around. It should be part of our marketing strategy.
Well, you nailed it, Glenn. Before we dive into this is the most important point around this. I think as marketers, we always need to be diligent in thinking of, how do I create messages? How do I deliver my information? How do I engage my audience in ways that they prefer and expect to receive them? And too often we don't pause and think about that, right? We always think about, how have we done things and how do we want to deliver our information or create our messages? And it's dangerous to get caught up in that and to not pause and think about it from the reverse perspective. One of the stories that I share in the book is about a company that many people listening here probably are familiar with, Marketo, right? They're a marketing automation platform, demand gen technology, account-based marketing platform. And they had the same realization that you did not that long ago. They were looking at their website, and they were a Vidyard customer, so we were doing a little bit of work with them. And, looking at their website, like most B2B software websites, the main call to action on the homepage and every other page is that big orange button in the corner. What do you think it said, Glenn? Like, what do you think? What's the main call to action on the software?
Get a demo?
get a demo, book a meeting, or talk to sales, right? Like one of those, and all of you listening, open up your own website and go, is that what my main call to action is? And what Glenn just said is very salient because, what you said is, as a potential buyer, there are things that I'd rather do, frankly, than book a meeting or schedule a demo or talk to sales. And one of those is watch a demo. Like, think about that, right? So Marketo, they said, well, what if we change this? What if we say, change the main call to action on our website from talk to sales or book a meeting to watch a demo or see a product tour? And it won't surprise many of you to hear that their conversion rates on their website literally skyrocketed, like more than 1,000% increase in conversions on their website, because that's what people actually wanted to do. Now, that's only the first part of the story. I'm going to save the rest of the story for later on because we can't reveal it all here at the beginning of the show.
We will come back to that. Okay, I'm holding you to it. But that part, and the websites do it, and let's face it, if we have spent any time in sales, when we're writing an email, we've also committed that crime of saying, well, can we just hop on a quick call and tell you more? And this helped, reading through the ways that you use videos, it just, that now I see as an opportunity to link a video instead. They'll probably watch it because you've given them control, right? They can hit pause, they can leave. They're not in a time suck of a call. And you know what? The other thing is, and I want to peel into this more, I think we're revealing more motive when we have video. Because look, if you offer a short little video that's just an honest answer to a question that every prospect has, that's probably all they need at this point, right?
Yeah. Well,
you talk about the 80% video. Like, tell me a little bit about how you just want to, take a few of those things together and just push them to the front end so that people can, have that instead of making that huge wall of a commitment that they have to get over to get the same information.
Well, let me, I'm going to preempt that with a quick note on something that I talk about a lot in the book as a foundation to things like the 80% video, the website demo video, all the other things that we're doing. And it's something I call the 4 E's of video. And as I've spent, I think it feels like about 100 years in this world of video in business. I think it's been like 8, but it feels like 100. And during that time, I've talked to a lot of people to understand what's working for them, what's not. Why is video doing this? Why is it not? And I came down to this idea of the 4 E's that make video an inherently more impactful medium than static content and text. The first E is educational, right? Video inherently is more educational than static content or the written word. And this actually stems from the fact that our brains process visual and audible information differently than it does static information. We process visuals faster. Some studies say 60,000 times faster than text. Doesn't matter what the number is, but we do process it faster. We are able to recognize, understand, interpret, and store visuals in different ways and more effective ways than just static text. And you also have the ability to add the audio narrative, intonation, body language, all of these things. So video is more educational than the written word. The second E is that it has the ability to be more engaging. And it can be more engaging because of many of those same things. It allows us to bring a story to life. It allows us to infuse ideas and, again, intonation and motion. Our eyes are drawn to motion. That's how we have survived as a species. So video can be more engaging, hold our attention. The third E is it can be more emotional. And this one needs very little explanation, right? Like, when was the last time you laughed at a white paper? Well, not at a white paper, with a white paper, because I've laughed at white papers because I looked at it and said, there's no way I'm freaking reading 20 pages, ha, ha, ha. But, a video allows us to create that emotional connection, right? Like get people actually smiling and resonating with us. And finally, the fourth E is empathetic. And the idea of empathy is that video allows us to be real, to be authentic, to be human, to actually demonstrate to our audience that we get them, that we're people just like them trying to help them solve real problems and create that human connection. So when you put those together and you say, we all want to be more educational, more engaging, more emotional, and more empathetic, right? Like nobody's going to say, no, I don't want to be those things, Tyler. But if you really believe that, then you say, geez, video is a great way to bring these ideas to life. And it could be a demo on my website. Now, the demo on your website doesn't need to be a tearjerker or make people laugh. It doesn't need to be as emotional, but it can lean in on being educational and engaging, right? Yeah. The 60% video that you alluded to is the idea of arming your sales team with a video that answers, 80%, the same questions they get 80% of the time on their first calls with prospects, right? Go ask your sales team, what questions do you typically get? And like 80% of them will be the same every time. And you go, hey, what if I made you a video that clearly answered those questions, right? It used visuals to explain it at a real person to create that empathetic bond. And you could send that video to prospects ahead of your call with them.
Yeah.
So that the time you actually have on a call, you can use to talk about more important things, right? Get that stuff out of the way.
And let's be clear here. This is like really simple stuff. Like if you ask the salespeople that question, these may be the most basic things. People have funny ideas about what a company does after just looking at a website. So it's really, we're not aiming like for anything too lofty here. This is, like, do you have real people that will pick up the phone and answer, or
right.
That sort of thing, right?
And these are all things that, of course, you can explain in text-based content and email templates and things like that. But when you actually explain them in video format, it does all these things, again, with respect to creating that emotional connection, introducing the real people in your company, earning their trust because they can actually see you and hear you and get to know you, right? These are all things that we take for granted in a lot of cases in today's business. And I think that we can bring to life. And to follow on your point of this doesn't have to be complicated, not only is the messaging not complicated, but the creation of this content. And that's where people get so hung up, Glenn, right? They go, geez, Tyler, I got to go out and buy a drone now. I got to hire a production crew. I need $8,000 of budget to hire a brand agency to do this. And, of course, again, we talk about this ad nauseum in the book of like, no, stop right there. This is no different from having an internal content team that's writing a blog post, that's creating an image to put out on social. The best thing that happened over the last 18 months in the world of business is that people's expectations of things like video content have changed. And for the better, for us creating it.
Yeah.
They no longer expect or even prefer, these big, epic, scripted commercials and things like that. They prefer the simple, authentic, raw content that's just honest and helpful. And we can create that stuff. Anybody, you listening right now, you can literally make what I'm talking about without even the help of a producer. Yeah, a producer's going to help you make it a little bit better. But hey, there are ways to do this now that we don't have to overthink it from a production standpoint either.
Yeah, there's different levels of polish, right? And so if you want to make an Oscar-worthy movie, sure, that's going to take more. But if you just want to help someone who's trying to figure out if they want to buy from you, yeah, just start with a phone.
Yep.
I think we need to drill in on this, though, because there is more than that, I think, that is holding up us, the sellers. I do think, like you said, the last 18 months, buyers have been habituated to getting things virtually, understanding that they can face that. But so they know that, if they see a video, they're down with what the controls are. And, it's all old hat now.
Doesn't matter if there's a bed in the background or a dog barking.
No, even that. But I think for us sellers, I think we do have hangups. And maybe tell me about how you think we as sellers, if it comes down to, let's say, who in our company is going to get in front of the camera, or, what are we going to talk about? How, will I sound pretentious? Will I sound silly? Just help us understand. Maybe you see lots of videos being made. And you see what the responses are by audiences. Are those real worries, or are those imaginary in our head?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, to be honest, Glenn. I think that it's a very valid concern that, the people within your company, people in your own sales team, if those are the people you're thinking about getting on camera, may not feel comfortable, may not be natural on camera. And that might come through in the content. And while the content itself is likely still valuable, it may not land in those other areas. It may not feel engaging because they're not a crisp, clear communicator, right? It may not come across with the right emotion because they're feeling nervous and they're making the viewer nervous. Yeah. So there are things we need to be mindful of that video brings a lot of these things to life. They bring your personality to life. They bring your narrative to life. And
yet it's the best parts of you, right? I mean, there's this little thing called editing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's, again, the magic of like most companies that I work with today, big and small, have somebody internal who is adept at video editing. And, going back a number of years, that would have been like crazy, right? You'd be like, I gotta have a video producer in house. Like that's what an agency's for. But the reality today is video is just another way to communicate your messages across all these different channels. So you need to be able to write, you need to be able to create images, you need to be able to build web pages, and you need to be able to make videos. And so having somebody internally who is adept at video editing, and they're the ones who are also championing, finding the right people who are going to get on camera. They may be working with other freelancers or an agency now and again to add in motion graphics or do something a little bit with higher polish or, more expensive gear if the need is there. But that's been one of the biggest shifts I've seen in the last few years, Glenn, is that video creation and video production is becoming an in-house core competency for businesses. Much like, many moons ago, we said, hey, we should actually hire an in-house writer to do our blog. And we should hire an in-house designer because this is a big part of the business. We should hire an in-house social person because social media is a thing. Now having in-house capabilities to do video is becoming critical and allows you to scale it without crushing your budget.
Yeah, we're not, able to see. We're recording in this in middle of 2021. So not many of us are able to see into offices. But before the pandemic, when I would be in offices, it was just becoming more and more common to see, and this is simple, a tripod, maybe a stool, maybe just a little bit of a background that's, kind of desks, but they're not, somebody's daily desk. It's just a little area set aside and a light. And, from there, you're good. I think sellers should also bear in mind, there's some great simple tips in the book. The 3-second smile, right? So start smiling when that, 3, 2, 1 countdown is starting. You're already, you don't know this, but, whether you want to look at it from, what your body's biology is doing to even your facial muscles, you are now injecting some happiness into the video. Another one is I loved just instead of, trying a teleprompter or something fancy, or worse yet, a piece of paper, just read 2 or 3 lines. That's probably going to get you 20, 30 seconds. Get it in your head and just take it and get it out. Someone will later on do a jump cut between that and the next 30 seconds. Yeah. And soon enough, you've got a couple of minutes of video. And when you look at it all together, you sound so on top of your game and your eyes have never left the camera.
Yep. I mean, there are so many great little tactics like that now that, again, somebody who is starting to really understand basic video editing, they can start to do these things. And they can get quick cuts with people. They can also help make sure that people do start to feel a little bit more natural on camera. They're also doing more and more to do content maybe with third-party people. They might be doing customer interviews. They might be doing thought leadership with experts. They might be taking a video recording of a podcast like we're doing here, Glenn, and cutting it up into short little video vignettes of like highlights and things like that. It's such a versatile medium that, again, it's very... it's a little scary and intimidating at first. We all know that with video because there's a lot going on here and we're putting ourselves out there in ways we haven't before. But, once you start to get comfortable with it and you feel it out, not only as an individual, but as a business, it is so versatile and it is in many ways so liberating because it now gives you this platform to be able to communicate like real people communicate, right? To infuse that emotion and to really start to change the way that you're building relationships with people. And I think it's just such a game changer when you can get to the point where it's a natural part of your communication flow as a marketing team, as a sales team, as a business. Yes. As opposed to every video feeling like an uphill battle. Yeah.
And I think as marketers, we are a little bit further ahead, possibly at the forefront of doing this. But, without getting too theoretical about it, I'm no Marshall McLuhan, but the idea that this new media is something that everybody can share and use the word liberating. Mm-hmm. I almost think there's a bit of a responsibility to show others how to do it, to get that customer who would happily go to a conference for you and stand on stage and say nice things, to take a few minutes and do a video, or to get a sales rep who wants to really come through to their prospects. I liken it something to, that dear old aunt that we showed how to get onto social media a decade ago. right? It's not that much different. And I get a lot of reward out of showing somebody these simple things, and they become simple to me, but that accelerated my learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, it's interesting. We're starting to see that within businesses where, we got to think about how do we enable and empower our people to start to figure this video thing out. And it's not just the marketing team, it's across the organization. Certainly customer facing and external facing roles, executives and so on, as well as sales teams, but even for internal communications and internal collaboration. The interesting thing that happened again over the last year was that most of us across the business at least started to get comfortable with this idea of turning on the camera, talking into a camera as part of our video conferencing, right? We're all using Zoom or WebEx or something else, that we now have this new baseline as an industry in the world of business to say, okay, we've all figured out how to use a camera either in or attached to our computer, which is great. You're now a video creator and a video broadcaster. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
It happened overnight, right? Now, are you a good video creator? Are you a great broadcaster? I don't know. But you're doing it. You're literally a media broadcaster. You are broadcasting yourself internally on these things. So you've already started to take those little steps. But there's other things we see people doing. One of the, here at Vidyard, we have a few different things that we do from a tech perspective. We're a video hosting platform for marketing teams, so I get a lot of exposure to that. But we also have a free tool that anybody can use to record and send video messages and screen share videos.
Right.
And so it's like you click, say, I want to record my webcam, I want to record my screen. As soon as you're done, you can just send a link to that video. You don't have to upload it or anything like that. And what's been really interesting about that is it's been like one piece of this whole like enablement of video, because literally, at least at Vidyard, like anybody in the business at any time, instead of typing out a big long email or scheduling a meeting to walk through a presentation, they'll hit the record button and they'll record a quick video and they'll send it over, or they'll record a screen share video with their presentation up and they'll walk through the slides and send it around so people can watch it on their own time and then come together in a live meeting just for a short discussion. And even that, getting people internally to start to record and share short videos goes a long way to kind of making it a part of the culture, getting people comfortable and confident with it. Not everybody will be, but a lot of people will start to get a feel for it. And then there'll be that small group of people that are like, this is phenomenal. I'm not going back to the old way. I hate typing on that keyboard. I hate trying to read what's on the screen. I'm just going to record a video and send it over. And that's my new way to communicate. And I think that's where business is going.
It wouldn't surprise me. And I think we can even step further in through that organization. We talked about sales, but perhaps the next group is after sales service, right? You mentioned in the book that you think that even after a company has bought, a product, that you should then use video for them. But it's a different type. I think, wouldn't you agree? It's less from the one size fits all. I'm making this video once to blast everywhere. This is more of a single person to single person, like you said, a video memo or right. And could you just, while we're on that, just explain to us what the hurdle is with email as it stands right now? Some people might, just think, well, I'm just going to grab this video and upload the entire thing as an attachment. So maybe take us through that.
Well, you're right. And so whether it's like sales and you're reaching out to prospects and customers, whether it's customer service, customer success, you're reaching out to existing clients, most of what those teams are doing today tends to be sending emails to deliver those ideas and messages or answer a question, right? And then, a couple of years ago, we started to see this rise of the idea of like, hey, I can record and send a video message as part of an email as a new way to deliver it. But one of the obstacles to doing that, going back a few years, was if I record a video on my phone or using my webcam, there's really no easy way to just send that to somebody. Like I'd have this like 300 megabyte file that I'd have to upload to like somewhere, I don't even know where, to send a link to it. And it just wasn't a practical process. But over the last few years, tools like Vidyard and others came to market that made it literally as easy as typing an email. You just hit record, and as soon as your video is recorded, it's automatically stored on its own dedicated page in online in the cloud with its own unique link. And you can simply drop that link and also a thumbnail image for your video so you can see your smiling face and just drop that into an email. And basically now you're just sending over that smiling thumbnail in a link. And when somebody clicks on it, it opens the web page and the video plays back. And it is such a seamless experience now that I don't know, man. It's almost like it's become so easy that for some people, as I alluded to, it just becomes habitual part of their communication now. And they'll always take that pause to go, oh, should I answer this question by typing out an email, or should I just hit the record button and send back a short video?
Yep.
And like that's when you really start to unlock it, and you go, oh wow, this is not only in some ways a better way to deliver my message, because it's going to be more personal, more engaging. They're going to, I also get more FaceTime with them. But in some cases, it's actually easier and more efficient because I can just speak the way I normally would and send it off. I don't have to worry about typing and grammar. So it's this really neat world we're in now where we can start to do these things. And I think it's benefit for both the recipient and the sender, as long as you respect their time, Glenn, and you don't drone on for 20 minutes trying to explain something that could have been 3 bullets in an email.
And this is true. And they're, again, editing for the win, because if you have a tool, you can crunch it down before you send it, save them, that 4 minutes where you really just stream of consciousness, get down to the condensed, here's what you need to know. Yeah. And they'll thank you that much for it. That's another thing. And I think we need to call this out in YouTube where we do have to remember people are consuming a lot of video. So the best time to start this is now, because as you get more used to it, you will realize that you are working with a fill bar underneath your face. And that fill bar is telling somebody how much of their life they're giving you. You need to be respectful of it. And, YouTube has conditioned us all to know where and when we can maybe drop out of a video. So use it wisely. I guess this is the with great power comes great responsibility line.
Yep. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Now, one video we haven't talked about, and I think we got to just call out the sacred cow, is the corporate thought leadership video.
Sure.
Okay. Because this is the one, you and I have been marketers for a while. You've been at some high flying tech companies. Don't tell me you haven't had a senior executive come by and say, I want a person standing on the edge of a mountainside, looking in the horizon, and I want our words coming across saying what our outlook for our entire industry is. Go make that. What's your thought in 2021 on, how they do it? I know that you waited until at least midway through the book before you even mention it. So, tell me how much priority that one should get.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that come along with this now. And like when you talk about those sort of like corporate communications, there's things like our brand videos, our about us videos, and, annual reports and things like that have their time and place and things we should create, and be mindful of the tone we're setting and things like that. I think in today's world, more and more using video to come across as relatable and, personal and having that empathy is more important than the hey, let's get stock footage and make something with, an epic soundtrack behind it.
Well, so you and I are both old enough. We remember those Sunday evening Walt Disney ones where he'd start sitting behind the desk, right. walking through the oak paneled library. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Yeah, no, and I think so. I think relatability is a big piece to it, and being just real and authentic, and video is allowing us to bring that through. But as you extend on that, and we talk about the broader thought leadership, there's this huge opportunity right now to think about how do I use video content, how do I use multimedia content, right? Podcasts are also a big part of this, to start to expand our reach in the market, get our message in front of more people, but again, in ways that are more about them than they are about us as a business.
Yeah.
And it's really the fundamentals of an inbound marketing strategy, and thinking about, understanding what kinds of questions are people asking, what kinds of things can we provide helpful information about, how can we help teach in the market? And that tends to be the kind of thought leadership that people gravitate towards. And many of us have traditionally just been doing written-based thought leadership. Our inbound strategies have been anchored in the blog and the white paper to answer questions we think people are asking. True. But they now expect to be able to interact in different forms. And I'm not suggesting you shouldn't do the blog, the written blog, or you shouldn't do the white papers and ebooks. Those still have their place. But if you're not complementing that with video-based content, even audio and podcast-based content, to reach people in different channels and to deliver those ideas in different formats, you're missing an opportunity. And again, these don't need to be expensive, big productions. These can be, again, it's about the content quality, not about the production quality. You're bringing it to life through video, taking advantage of its unique characteristics to be visual, to be human, to be personal, but you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to necessarily even come up with a new narrative, right? You can figure out what are we already saying in our written content and how can we now just bring that to life through video and get it out to people in new ways.
Completely. I favor that. And even if we kind of look at it from a marketer career angle here, it's unwise to put all your eggs in the basket of thinking, let's say you start in a new place. All right, I'm going to make that corporate brand video, and that's going to be this monolithic thing that everybody's going to see and just marvel at. Well, you're probably going to see your budget climb. You're probably going to encounter some issues. If that's the one that you want to start with, I would say, and you've already said it, cut your teeth on something like a small personal video, things that will not be missed if they wander away, and prove your worth and get really good at your craft on those. Build over to something else. And even on the inbound marketing front, you're quite right. Search engines are surfacing these things.
Oh yeah.
You don't know what order people are going to want to see them in or when they hit them. So try not to worry so much about that. I need them to come in through this front door. They'll figure out what your why is after they see you from multiple angles. They'll form a composite picture. But yeah, the very first video they may see of you may be that 45-second answering of a very basic question.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I mean, it literally brings your business to life, like with real people, real voice, real narrative. And this is now becoming a part of our brand as a business, right? I think that as businesses, we've always focused on like our visual identity of like the logo and the iconography and the colors. And then we have like our tone and our written sort of words, our brand promise. But we also need to start thinking about how does our brand get represented in this new visual world? And, how do we bring it to life through video content, through audio content, through interactive experiences? And how is that going to change the way our audience thinks about us? How will it influence, again, how they view us? Because again, now with video, you also start to have this ability to lean into different brand attributes like humor if you want to, right? You can double down on that and say, if humor is a big part of our brand, we've always kind of written our content in witty ways, but now, wow, with video, like we can really make that a hero part of our brand, right? Or not.
You give examples in the book of brands that have done that with like serial releases of video content, right? So give an example or two of places where the leaning in has happened and how they've chosen to use video for that.
Oh, you know what? A really simple example that I talk about in the book is a company. There's a couple of folks that I know are great examples of this. Mozilla Companies is one, and Retro Foam of Michigan. I'm going to pick them because it's such a strange business for us to think about in the B2B world. Retro Foam of Michigan. So they are a services company who does home insulation, right? So they've got foam. They do foam spray insulation and such. And, they're a company I've done some work with because they really started to lean into video from an inbound strategy perspective. And they started creating videos, much like they had blogs already written, to answer a lot of the common questions that people were asking about home insulation. But with the videos, they would bring them to life by actually showing, not just telling. And so video became this really strong extension to the key part of their brand of being helpful and being thoughtful to their audience and being a trusted advisor, right? Now, having the written blog was already getting them to, a 6 out of 10, let's say. Video allowed them to crank that up to an 8 or 9 because now they could focus on that. And they actually created not only a whole ton of videos to answer questions, they've created an ongoing weekly series called Foam University or Foam U. And the star of it, right? So they're like 3 to 5 minute episodes. Yep. And the star in it is Professor Foam, who is actually their GM. Like he runs the Retro Foam of Michigan. And in every episode, he's got this like recognizable kind of like suede jacket. He's sitting in this chair. He's got a really great character to him.
Yeah.
And he's Professor Foam in these. He's got his little Foam U symbol on his jacket. And in each episode, he explains a different topic to you in this fun way and encourages you, subscribe to Foam U. Every week, you're going to get a new video teaching you something else.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, this brand for this company is like, it's totally different. It's like, this is now this really interesting thought leader. They've got this whole like university thing going, which, it's just this fun video series.
Sure.
But like it does all these things to start to make them so much more approachable, so much more interesting. And he's like a celebrity now in his community, right? Like people will go into the store and they'll be like, "You're Professor Foam," right? And it's like it's a whole new thing, which is super interesting. So there's ways you can lean into that in B2B as well as in B2C.
Yeah, and this may tie in nicely to talking about measurement, because I've got to think that I haven't worried that much about insulation, to watch many videos about it, maybe one, but, there's a lot of information that you're able to get. And I can only imagine that Retro Foam of Michigan, if they see that someone has subscribed and is on a weekly basis consuming information about their product, this is a pretty bankable pipeline, don't you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're spot on. And in their case, it's not the individual consumer that they're trying to get to binge on that. It's the contractor or the, the construction company who's doing this. And so
Perfect.
That's their B2B play, right?
Nice.
And so, and they want to, build up that following. But in that case,
who they also want to educate.
Of
so
course.
that they can speak knowledgeably on their behalf.
Oh, yeah. And they just want to be, anytime that the idea of home insulation comes up, they're the first one that comes to mind, because they also remember them visually more than anybody else. But from an analytics perspective, what's really interesting with video is you not only, like other forms of content, of course, you can know how many people click play to watch, right? Just like how many people downloaded my ebook or how many people opened this email. So you get that first sense of like how many people are engaging. But because video is also a linear stream, you can track actual engagement times and know how long on average are people actually staying tuned. Unlike that ebook where all you know is they downloaded it and you have no idea if they read for 10 seconds or they read the whole thing, or if they read none of it. Spoiler alert, most people don't read any of it. So with the videos, what's neat is you can now also get not just reach, number of views, but you can also understand resonance, which is the engagement patterns. Is this content actually resonating, or are we seeing most people dropping off, 30 seconds of the way through? So you can now learn from the content in different ways by understanding its resonance through knowing your engagement times. And then the last piece, I'm going to now go back.
Yep.
I promised you all I would share
Lay it on us.
Marketo story. So I'm going to go back as an example now to explain this, our friends at Marketo. So as I said, more and more people on their website are clicking on that, watch a product tour or watch a demo call to action. When they do, here's what Marketo does. So when they do, Marketo actually pops up a form for you to unlock this demo experience online.
Okay.
And they see actually a really high conversion rate on it because of the expectation of what's on the other side, right? Like I know as a consumer, I'd be like, yeah, I'll give you my firstborn child if it means I don't have to talk to a sales rep, right? Bring it on. So they see a high completion rate on the form. They're generating a lot of new leads. But now, as people are watching, they have 9 different demo videos in this portal. And so they're now tracking. So Glenn, you went to their website, you filled out the form, you go in there, and you watch the first overview video for 2 minutes long, and you watch the whole thing.
Okay.
Then you go and you watch their 5-minute deep dive on account-based marketing all the way to the end. And then you start watching the video on email marketing, but you bail after 20 seconds because you're like, no, this isn't for me. And then that pattern continues on. What Marketo's actually doing on the back end is they're tracking and knowing exactly what you did, Glenn. They know you watched the first video for 2 minutes. They know you watched the next one for 5. And then they know you bailed on the next one after 30. All of that data feeds into their own marketing automation tools. And you will show up as a qualified lead to their sales reps who will know to follow up with you for a conversation about account-based marketing, because that's the video you watched all the way to the end, right? If you just watched 30 seconds and bounced, nobody would follow up with you because you showed interest, but not real intent because you didn't watch through the content. So all of a sudden now, as marketers, we're unlocking this whole ability to not only know what actions people are taking, but what are they actually engaging with? How much time are they spending in different pieces of content? And that's like I don't want to oversell it here, but that could actually be like a revolutionary way to think about your analytics. Because now you can make sure you're only passing over to your sales teams the ones that actually are leaning in, as opposed to the ones that just look interesting but aren't really spending the time, which is pretty phenomenal. I think it's a very cool thing you can do.
I wouldn't recommend that marketers send every lead over. That's a career limiting move. Nope. But think of the wasted time that sales has talking to unqualified leads. This sort of thing is gold. Not only for, that rep who is psychologically gearing up for yet another call that they're going to, have, go sideways for 15 minutes before they lose them. But, so they're going to win more often. Sales management and corporate management is actually going to have more people on the ground because they can get through more qualified prospects in less time. It's powerful.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're elevating sales effectiveness and sales efficiency when you're doing this.
Right.
And, the reps are getting,
and velocity to sale.
And focusing on,
right. It's going to shorten the sales cycle because they're only talking about the things they care about.
Geez, Glenn, it's like you read the book or something, because that is actually that like cherry on top of the Marketo story, was that not only, right, like let's get back to the raw data. So not only did they see a huge increase in conversion rate on their website for new leads, they then found a surge in pipeline because they were quickly following up with the people who were watching a lot of the demo videos and turning them into opportunities. So more pipeline. But the last piece, which you just mentioned, they saw their marketing nerd lingo here, their their inquiry to qualified lead, MQI to MQL time, reduce by 6x.
Wow.
Which is all about velocity. Because traditionally, what would happen, right? Think about this, all you marketers. Somebody comes to your website, they do something, they click on a link, they download an ebook, and you're waiting. You're like, oh, they're almost qualified, but not yet. Sales told us that's not enough. I got to wait until they do some other things. And so it takes 2 weeks to finally qualify a lead. But in this case, they know if somebody comes in and within 20 minutes, if they've watched 10 minutes of that video content, they're getting shipped to sales. And sales agrees. They're like, yeah, that's a hot lead. And that only happens when you can track the engagement time, right? So they found that they're shipping leads over to sales faster because the MQI to MQL time is way shorter. But that also means they're getting them while they're hot. They're hitting these prospects when they're immersed in the content. And so, I mean, I don't know, if you're listening to this and you don't go and replicate this experience, I don't even know what you're thinking, because this is
but it must be cool too, if the people featured in the video are some of the self-same people that they will eventually be talking with in a sales discussion. I mean, you've already got the know, like, and trust on a personal level too. There's many, many ways that it provides benefits. Now, you joke right at the beginning of the book. You say, why on earth is a plea for making videos done in book form? But, you didn't just leave it there. You actually did decide to make a website that, shows what, you're talking about too. So take us through the visual sale for a minute and just what's there.
Yeah, so the visual sale is, as you mentioned, the book that I co-authored with the incredible Marcus Sheridan that we released recently. And the book itself goes through, as much as we could cram in of what we've learned about best practices for using video throughout the whole customer lifecycle. Now, it's called the visual sale because we all care about at the end making the sale. But we cover the whole marketing cycle, different marketing functions, as well as sales teams and how they can be using video as well. So it's chock full of ideas, checklists, examples, and tips and tricks for how to figure out the craft of video. And to your point, we also then created a companion website that has a myriad of different examples of some of the things we talk about in the book. So you can see it, not just read about it. And you can go experience a lot of the videos that we talked about if you want to actually go and say, oh, what does this actually look like? You can go there, you can see them, you can feel them. And then, remember, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. If you want to go, I'm going to make a video just like that, hey, feel free, right? They're all up there for you to go and take a look at. So
put it in the swipe file.
It is a nice sort of analog and digital experience. A swipe file, that's right.
Yeah, I did. And I liked how, there are ones where you're showing the video hardware at work, obviously with a different camera. So you can kind of get the whole, you can picture what it would be like if you were replicating it in your home office or in an office setting. So no, that's amazing. Listen, I have to ask the question, how did you and Marcus Sheridan come together to write the book together? How did that all happen?
Yeah, so Marcus is part of a agency called Impact, and they are a phenomenal inbound marketing and HubSpot agency. And, on my side, my day job is as VP marketing at Vidyard. As I mentioned, we do a lot of different video tech that powers these capabilities. And I've been doing a lot, of course, in this area of just thought leadership around video to help educate people on best practices. And I came together with Marcus because as part of his own journey in inbound marketing, he realized very early on that video was going to be kind of the next wave of inbound marketing, of how it is that we put content out there in the world, build brands, all these things we've been talking about. So he and I got together, several years ago to share war stories, to, do some joint content together, presented at Inbound together a couple of times, just for our shared love of video. And, going back a couple of years, we had tossed around the idea of writing a book on it and bringing our experiences together and saying, hey, we both have actually very different experiences based on who we work with and how we do things. So let's see if we can bring them together for, sort of a shared book where we can offer lots of different ideas. And, what was interesting was we were very close to finishing the book when this thing called the pandemic happened. I don't know if any of you have seen it happen out there, but March of 2020. And we were very close to finishing the book. And then we went into lockdown. And all of a sudden, all these new video experiences started popping up, like virtual events were happening everywhere. Yeah. The dynamics for virtual selling were starting to change. So we actually had an opportunity to pause. We updated parts of the book to bring in some of these new ideas in the context of, virtual world. Added that final part to the subtitle, in a virtual world, and then we released it later that year. So it was a really wonderful experience. Marcus is a tremendous strategist. He's also written another book called They Ask You Answer, which I can't recommend enough. Ultimately it was a really great experience, and he's terrific.
Yeah, it's a good book. I would say it's impossible to come away from reading it without getting some ideas on what you can be doing in your own. So as I mentioned, even with my eye rolling at the very beginning, the book has so many different things that you can't help but find a way, no matter how curmudgeonly your corporate culture is, there's some way that you can begin to layer video onto what you're doing. Yeah. Where can people get the book and find out more about it?
Well, that's great. So you can learn more about the book at thevisualsale.com. It's also, of course, available on Amazon and other online bookstores. So just search around for The Visual Sale and you will find it. Myself, please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Tyler Lessard, VP Marketing at Vidyard. So you can find me there. I share stuff pretty much daily out into my community on things that I'm seeing out in the market, and would love to meet up with you there.
Terrific. And we'll be sure to have all those links in the show notes. And I want to thank the listener for listening to the end. I bet you can think of somebody, maybe yourself, who needs this book, or someone else who is grappling with trying to use video. This is a great resource for them. And I encourage you to check it out. Also, if you've got a suggestion for a book that you'd like me to feature on a podcast, go ahead and get in touch with me, and you can reach out to me at Funnel Reboot.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter at Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.